Hope you're all doing good. In today's session, we'll be talking something about our favorite topic, which is hedge accounting. So, as part of our regular classes, we've done a detailed discussion about hedge accounting. Also, we had done one problem, even though there was no question on hedge accounting in our study material. We had done one question on cash flow hedge in our problem. Now, why are we talking about hedge accounting now? Is that in RTP, rather in MTP April 21 series, our institute has come up with a problem relating to cash flow hedge. So that we'll be covering in the today's session. Okay. So yes, I think our students will be aware. This we call it as chart book. Okay. So our YouTube audience and those guys who have not opted for our classes, just for their benefit, I'm telling this. So what do we do is we have done something known as the summary chart book for our entire FR syllabus. That summary chart book is around 130, 140 odd pages. All are colored chart books, something like this. Okay, I'm showing you some sample chart books like here. Okay, so through the help of this chart book, you'll be able to revise the entire syllabus within 3 to 4 hours maximum. So if any of our audience, if you are interested and if you want to buy this chart book, you can visit our website learn.arivupro.com, and under that select CA, go for CA final and select books. We have 3 categories of books. One is our basically select the subject, financial reporting, go for printed book, and then select study material. Study material is our regular class notes. Practice book is where which we refer to as additional questions in our class purpose. That will have RTP, MTPs and some other questions, practice questions basically. And then it'll have chart book. So if you want to buy chart book, select chart book, add the whatever books that you want to buy, add it to the cart, give your right number and address. The courier guy will deliver the books to you. Okay. All right. So now coming back to the topic, the hedge accounting we were talking about, right? So there are 3 types of hedges. One is the cash flow hedge, another one is the fair value hedge, another is the hedge of net investment in foreign operation. So the question in our MTP is relating to cash flow hedge. So let's give a quick recap. We have done in detail, so some of you might have forgotten that. So I'll give you a quick recap of that and then dive into the problem. So cash flow hedge means what? First of all, what is hedge? Okay, before we get into the types of hedge, what is a hedge? Now, let's say there is one company, A Limited. They have sold goods to a foreign currency debtor. Let's say they have sold it to one company known as B Incorporated. That is there in this particular company is there in USA. Let's say the value of the goods sold is $100,000. Now, A Limited will have a little bit of problem with this transaction. What problem they'll have? Let's say the sale of goods has happened and the money will be received, let's say, after 6 months. You have sold the goods now and you'll receive the money after 6 months. Now, the sale value has happened in dollars. So, B Limited has told A Limited that they will give the money also in dollars. Now, A Limited ka problem is how much INR they will receive. Because A Limited is there in India, right? So, that means their functional currency is INR. So, they are interested to know the rupee value of things. But this particular transaction has happened in dollars. So A Limited will have a problem saying how much INR will they receive on this transaction. Because this is done in dollars, no? So exchange rate keeps on fluctuating. It could be 70, 75, 80, 85, anything it could become, right? So that means A Limited will exactly not know how much money they will receive from this particular transaction. Okay. So to cover this, there is a huge risk here. So they may receive more money if exchange rate is favorable, or they may receive less money if exchange rate is unfavorable. Yes. So they don't want to take this foreign exchange ka game because their business is to buy and sell the goods, right? So business risk they will take. This foreign exchange risk and all, A Limited may not be comfortable in taking for that. Yes. To cover this foreign exchange risk, A Limited can get into an arrangement known as hedging. Hedging is basically to cover the risk. Okay. They may enter into a forward contract, a future contract, or whatever to cover this particular risk. Okay. So if a company has done any forward contract or future contract to cover this or to mitigate or to cover this risk, how the accounting is to be done is what we refer to as hedge accounting. Okay. And this is covered under Ind AS 109. Yes. So there could be, now I think you know the meaning of hedging. So hedging is basically an activity undertaken to cover your risk. Right? Now, hedge could be of three types. One is cash flow hedge, fair value hedge, hedge of net investment in foreign operation. Cash flow hedge means what? There is a risk associated with the cash flow variance risk, like how much cash you will receive, you don't know. To cover that risk, if you're doing a hedge, we call that as a cash flow hedge. Like here in this particular example, $1 lakh A has to receive, but they're not interested in dollars, they are interested in INR. So how much cash flow they will receive in INR is subject to exchange rate fluctuation. So if A is doing any activity to cover this particular cash flow risk, we call such a hedge as a cash flow hedge. All right. Similarly, there is a fair value hedge. Let's say, now we'll take another example if you want. Maybe I'll just give you a background before I get into that particular problem. Let's say A Limited has invested in a foreign currency bond. Okay. Foreign currency convertible bond, we'll say FCCB. Okay. They've invested in foreign currency convertible bonds, let's say of $10,000. Let's say the term of this bond is, let's say, 7 months for simplicity. A Limited has purchased a bond. Maturity term is 7 months from the purchase date. The value of that is $1,000. Okay, but it is a foreign currency convertible bonds which they purchased. Now A Limited again will have a little bit of an issue over here. What is that issue? How much money on these bonds A Limited will receive at the maturity date or redemption date is questionable. Yes, because the transaction is in dollars. After 7 months, if exchange rate is favorable, they may receive more money or they may face some loss also. So if A Limited is doing any activity to cover this risk, there's a value, right? They're concerned about foreign currency bond ka value. So if they are doing something, if they're doing any activity to cover this value change risk, if they're doing any activity, we call such a hedge as a fair value hedge. Basically, activity undertaken for fair value risk variance. To cover this fair value change risk, you are doing one activity that we call it as fair value hedging. Okay. The question again, this and all we had discussed in the class, so I'll not go into that particular funda over here. Okay, I'll just directly get into the cash flow hedge part itself. Okay, fair enough. All right. So one is on the now I think you know the meaning. Yes, and the other one is hedge of net investment in foreign operation. If you have any foreign subsidiary and stuff, so if you have invested, okay. So again, there is a how much money you will receive when you sell the investment is questionable. To cover that risk, you may do some hedging activity that we call it as hedge of net investment in foreign operation, which we know we have done something known as FCTR, foreign currency translation reserve, and all we have done that, right? So that is about the meaning. So coming back to the cash flow hedge. Now in cash flow hedge, we have learnt, okay, there will be two instruments: the hedged item, and hedging instrument. Hedged item and hedging instrument. Hedged item, we used to call it as HI for our class purpose. Hedging instrument, which we used to call it as HII. That's what you are seeing in the reference over here, right? There'll be two items. They'll put two components: hedged item, hedging instrument. Hedged item means what are you covering? See, one particular item is exposed to risk. For that, you're doing a hedging, right? So which item is exposed to risk? That we call it as hedged item. Now, in this particular first example, your foreign currency receivable is subject to exchange rate fluctuation. So that is your hedged item. So basically, that is subject to risk. So foreign currency trade receivable will be your hedged item here. Now, to cover this risk, what did you do? You may enter into some forward contract, right? That forward contract or derivative, what you have entered, that we call it as hedging instrument. So that's what we mean by hedged item and hedging instrument. Hedged item means that component which is subject to risk. Hedged instrument means to cover the risk, what do? You enter into a forward or a future contracts or whatever, right? That we call it as hedging instrument. Now what Ind AS 109 says is, okay, the exchange, the gain from the transaction date till the settlement date. If you are getting any gain loss on both hedged item and hedging instrument, that you will not transfer it to P&L. You will transfer it to one OCI. The name of that OCI is cash flow hedge reserve. CFHR, cash flow hedge reserve. Now, why do we do this? Normally, you must have learned hedged instrument is your derivative, right? Derivative is generally valued at what? Derivative is valued at? We know that derivative you use which method? Derivative we use FVTPL method. That means any fair value gain loss should be going off to P&L. As per FVTPL method, any fair value gain loss should go off to P&L. But why did they recommend that both these, the exchange gain or loss from the transaction date till the settlement date, whatever gain loss you are getting on this, They're not asking. Ind AS 109 is not asking us to put it in P&L. They're asking us to put it in an OCI item known as cash flow hedge reserve. Now, why are they telling that? That is because of, maybe if you want to know that as well, just I'll give you another example. Let's say you've invested this bond, right? A Limited. Let's take up this example. A Limited has invested in this foreign currency bond. Okay, $10,000. Let's say A Limited is valuing this investment at FVT OCI method, fair value through other comprehensive income. Yes, normally these bonds and all we use ACM method, but if you want to follow ACM method, your business model should be to hold it till the contract period, till the maturity, and the amount that you get, the CCF test, contractual cash flow, should only be interest and principal. It should be a sole payment of principal and interest, we say. Yes. So let's say that particular business model here is A Limited feels if they get a better opportunity, they may sell it off before 7 months itself. That is their business model. So in that case, this will not be valued under ACM method. It will go for FVT OCI method. Okay. So this bond, let's say, is valued under FVT OCI method. That means any fair value gain loss, if you are valuing an instrument under FVT OCI method, then any fair value gain loss, where it will be parked, sir? The fair value gain loss will go off to OCI. Yes. So if on this foreign currency bond, if there is any fair value gain loss, company is booking it in OCI. To cover this foreign currency bond, if they have done any hedging instrument, let's say they've done a forward contract, okay, that is a derivative. Yes. Now, derivative should be valued under FVTPL method. So that means any fair value gain loss, if you book it off to P or L, then don't you think there is an accounting mismatch over here? Because the hedged item, because derivatives are only coming because you have foreign currency bond. Yes. If this foreign currency bond was not there, means even this derivative would not be there. Derivative instrument is there only because you have foreign currency bond. Exchange gain on foreign currency bond, you are putting it in OCI. The fair value gain, in fact, the fair value gain or loss on a foreign currency bond, you're putting it in OCI. However, the fair value gain loss on derivative, you're putting it in P&L. Is it matching, sir? No, one instrument you're putting it in OCI, another one you're putting it in P&L. Is it making sense, or is it an accounting mismatch? There is an accounting mismatch here. Yes. Hence the standard is telling both ka fair value gain loss, don't book it in P&L. Temporarily you book it in cash flow hedge reserve, OCI. Both on hedged item, that is your FVCCB, and your hedging instrument, that is derivative. Both ka, if there is any fair value gain loss, do not transfer it off to P&L. Temporarily you park it in account known as cash flow hedge reserve, OCI. After the contract is over, because these are, if you remember, these are debt FVT OCI, right? Reclassifiable gains. Once the contract is over, okay, once the contract period comes to an end, then from cash flow hedge reserve, you transfer it off to P&L account. That's all is the funda. Okay. Till the contract is there, any gain or loss on both hedged item and hedging instrument, you park it in OCI. That is, name of that OCI is cash flow hedge reserve. Once the contract ends, from cash flow hedge reserve, you transfer it off to P&L. That is your background. That is what I've written it on in the chart over here. In fact, I've written here contract duration because the problem we had done in our class previously, it was foreign currency bond wala problem. Their contract duration was necessary. And again, give you the comparative differences also. Fair enough. Once the contract is over, this cash flow hedge reserve will get balanced. There will not be any balancing figure. That is what we had done, and we had done one problem also. Clear? Okay. So now conceptually, I think you're okay. This is what we need to apply. So let's have a quick recap. Cash flow hedge reserve means there is a cash flow risk variance. So to cover that cash flow variance, we are doing some hedging. We are doing some activity. Fine. That we call it as cash flow hedge accounting. Normally that is done by getting into a derivative contract like forward futures, etc. Now this accounting, cash flow hedge, if you're doing cash flow hedge accounting, then what do you need to do? The gain loss on both hedged item and hedging instrument, both ka gain loss, you park it in not in P&L but in one OCI. Name of that OCI is cash flow hedge reserve, CFHR. Now till the contract is there, CFHR, cash flow hedge reserve, will have a balance. Once the contract terminates, from cash flow hedge reserve, you will transfer the balance off to the P&L account. Okay, eventually that cash flow hedge reserve will get balanced off. Okay, this we need not hedge, fair value hedge, we need not go further. Okay, for now it's not required. So let's do a thing. We will learn the concepts better only when we apply it in one of the problems, right? So this is our MTP April 2021 wala question that they had asked us. quite similar to what we had done also. But in fact, our problem in the class was much better. It had both. Okay, it had a lot of other adjustments also. But here it's comparatively easy compared to our class notes. Okay, so let's see. Let's read this problem and you figure it out how you feel about it. Okay. Besides construction activity, buildings company, that's the name of the company, they are also engaged in trading of copper. So they're buying and selling copper. All right. So that means this becomes goods. So Ind AS 115 will get attracted for this, right? Revenue from contract from customers. On 1st April 20X1, it had 100 kgs of copper costing 70 per kg. So the total will be 7,000. 100 multiplied by 70, which is 7,000. That they have it with them. So it's inventory. That much is remaining in there, remaining with them as inventory. The company has scheduled the delivery of these 100 kgs of copper to a customer on 30th September. So they've entered into a contract with the customer saying, I will sell you these copper, 100 kgs of copper on 30th September. Not now. Okay, on 1st April, they have this in their godown as inventory. 30th September, they've entered into a contract that they will sell it on 30th September. At US dollars 100 rupees on that date. Alright. So this is the rate they have agreed upon in the contract. Fair enough. So it's a foreign currency debtor. Correct? You'll sell the copper, but you'll receive the money in dollars. Now the headache for this particular company, buildings, is if you have sold the goods in dollars, or you have sold goods to foreign debtors in dollars, you'll receive the money in dollars. Dollar value keeps fluctuating. They don't want to take this exchange fluctuation risk. Yes, other than business risk. Business only is a big risk. Now in cash flows and all, if you start taking risk, it will be a problem for them. Yes. So to cover this risk, what do you think company will do? They'll enter into a forward or future contract or whatever. Yes, to cover this. So it becomes your cash flow hedge. So to cover this cash flow variance, you're doing one hedging. So it's a cash flow hedge. Yes, that they've told it, but they need not tell it. We can automatically decode it ourselves. Yes. Okay. To protect itself from the decline in currency exchange, that is US dollars to rupees, the entity hedges its position by entering into a future contract at equivalent currency of 76 per dollar. So they've entered into a forward contract at 76. So dollar value they've freezed. Because after 6 months they will receive $100. The company is not interested in dollars. They are interested in rupees. So they have to sell this dollars, right? So the selling rate, they have fixed it on 30th September by entering into a future contract at 76 per dollar. No matter whatever is the exchange rate, we have already freezed our rate. That $1 I will sell it at 76 rupees on 30th September. That we have freezed through this future contract. Awesome. So that means this is our derivative. Yes. So on derivative, you have to apply Ind AS 109 ka principle. Okay, if it is a normal derivative contract, you could have got into, if you would have done FVTPL accounting, any fair value gain loss, you would have booked off to P&L. But this is a hedging related derivative. So both hedged item ka gain loss and hedging instrument, that is derivative ka gain loss, you will not transfer it off to P&L. You will book it in cash flow hedge reserve. So next question is to find out that fair value gain loss. That's all. The future contract will mature on 30th September. That is the date on which your sale also will happen. Okay. The management performed the assessment of hedge effectiveness, because to do this accounting, hedge should be effective, we had concluded. Yes, there should be an economic relationship between the hedged item and a hedging instrument. Like that, we had some conditions. That they're saying it is getting satisfied. Fair enough. And they are only saying it is a cash flow hedge accounting. Awesome. They need not tell, but they've specifically told. Fair enough. Good for us. Alright, this entity determines that the documents that changes in fair value will be highly effective. They're saying hedge is affecting. Fair enough. That should be to do the hedge accounting. On 30th September 20X1, the entity closes out its currency future contract. So maturity came and they've closed out of this derivative. On the same day, it also sells its inventory of copper at US $100 when the spot rate was 72. So they have sold. On that particular day, they also sold this goods to the foreign currency debtor at 72 per dollar. Okay. You are required to prepare a detailed working passing the journal entry for the sale of copper and corresponding hedge instrument taken by the company. Pass journal entry as of the initial date, 1st April, first quarter ending 30th June, and the date of sale of copper and settlement 30th September. Meaning from 1st April to 30th September, they are asking you all the journal entry. If any working note is required to ascertain the value, they are asking you that also. We'll put it up. Assuming the exchange rate as follows and yield at 6%. Actually, this problem I could have given it as homework only. Same thing we have done in our class also. In fact, with a better adjustment. But what makes this problem interesting is the yield one. Okay. in the question we had done already, yield was not there. Here, yield at 6% is given, meaning the discount factor they've given, sir. So time value of money ka funda also you need to incorporate in this particular problem. That is the extra fitting. Other than that, this is a very straightforward question. Okay. So date they have given 1st April, and they've given future price on 30th September delivery. So that future contract ka price they've given. So on 1st April, if you enter into a contract, you've entered into future contract on 1st April, no, and it will mature on 30th September. So if you count from April to 30th September, it is 6 months. So on 1st April, if you enter into a 6 months future contract, the rate you will get is $1 is equal to 76. That's what we have got, because we have entered for a 6 months future contract. Yes. However, if you don't enter it on 1st April, if you enter it on 30th June, okay, that means on 30th June and the maturity is 30th September. That means July, August, September. Okay, on 30th June, if you enter into a same future contract, the rate you will get is 74, they are saying. On 30th September, on the date of closure, it is 71. Ideally, this 72 and 71 should have been same, because in the date of execution, spot rate and forward rate should be same. I don't know why they made it different. Okay, but let's not question that. It is all right. Fine enough. This is what they've given, and this they are asking for about 10 marker. Okay. So let's see how this they've done. Okay, solution, no, it's good, but the working notes is not that comfortable. We feel if you just see how they've solved, no? So they put in so much of data. Remembering all that is like, a little crazy. I will solve it probably a little easier method, or I feel that is easy. You figure it out for yourself whether you are comfortable with the one working note I'm putting it up. Okay, so I'll put up one working note. What working note is? It's simple. Fair value gain loss. On hedged item, we don't have to worry about the fair value gain loss because it is happening only on 30th September. Yes. So it means only fair value gain loss on derivative, that is future contract, is what I need to worry about. So I'll put one working note to find out the fair value, because you are accounting using fair value, right? So fair value of derivative, or I'll write it as future only. Fair value of future contract, that is nothing but derivative. Okay. Fair value of financial asset, or if you want, you can also write financial asset future contract. Like that we will write. Fair value of financial asset hyphen future contract. Okay. I'll have two columns, particulars, amount. Then simultaneously, I'll also do of the journal entry. Okay, maybe journal entry, I'll put it on the next page. Or here only, it's okay, I think. They also ask the journal entry, right? Journal entries. Okay. Date, particulars, and finally our amount. They asked on from 1st April, they're asking you the journal entry. So let's get started with that maybe. From on 1st April, which is date is that? 1st April 20x1. See, on 1st April 20x1, have you sold goods? No, sale of goods happens only on 30th September. Yes, on 30th September only you're selling the goods. Okay, and Ind AS 115 says revenue you can recognize only when the performance obligation is getting satisfied. Here, the performance obligation is to deliver the goods. Goods are getting delivered only on 30th September, means only on 30th September your performance obligation will be satisfied. So you can book the sale entry only on 30th September. That is not possible to book it on 1st April. 1st April, you only made the contract and you have not even received any amount. If you had received the amount, you have to treat that as an advance as per Ind AS 115. Yes, fine. Only when the performance obligation is satisfied, revenue can be accounted. So 1st April, revenue ka funda is not there. What about this derivatives? Because on 1st April, you also enter into a future contract. Will any entry come for this? No entry is required for future contract. No entry, I just write no entry, I'll write. No entry required on this particular date. But 1st April you enter into a future contract, no sir, why will it not come? See, we have also discussed this just to retrace your memory. Okay. At the inception or at contract inception, meaning when you enter into a contract, okay, your forward, futures, etc., your interest swap options and all, they will have no fair value. On the day you enter into these contracts, forward, future, or interest rate swap, whatever, on that particular day, it will have no fair value. Only option will have fair value. Option will have fair value. So why this partiality, sir? See, sir, if you want to understand it, suppose A and B, they are entering into a forward contract. Okay, one will sell, other one is saying buying. Okay, some forward contract they are entering. On the day they enter into a contract, if you say, let's say the fair value is 10. Fair value means what? It's amount received when you sell the asset or to transfer a liability in an orderly transaction between market participants on a measurement date. This is what Ind AS 113 says. In simple terms, by selling the asset, how much money will you receive? Or by to settle a liability, how much money you need to pay? Yes or no? So fair value is nothing but amount received or amount paid. Correct? Now, if you say on the day of entering into this forward contract only, if it has a fair value, that means one guy has to pay, other guy will receive. For the guy paying, it becomes a loss. For the guy receiving it, it becomes a gain. On the day you enter into a contract only, if there is a gain for one person and loss for another person, why will the loss making guy first of all enter into such contract? Yes, that's what it is. So at the time of contract inception, the fair value will be nothing. You will not have fair value for this forwards and futures. Because if it is gain, the loss making party will back out of the contract. Yes, he will not even enter. That's the reason we say for forwards and future, on the contract inception date, they will not have fair value. But only option will have fair value. Why? Because in case of forward contract, once you enter into a forward contract, you cannot back out from it. If you enter into a forward contract with the term of 3 months, after 3 months, compulsorily you need to go through with that transaction. If there is a loss, you need to settle that loss. If there is a gain, you will receive that gain. The settlement is a must in case of forwards, future and all. But in case of an option, there is a possibility of backing out. If it becomes a loss-making scenario or unfavorable scenario, then a person for whom is facing loss, he can back out. Hence, in case of option, we charge something known as option premium. The moment you enter into an option contract, you have to pay some premium because you have a back out option. Yes. So since you are paying that premium, the premium paid will become fair value. So hence we say option will have a fair value, whereas others will not have fair value. Got it? That's the reason, since this contract does not have fair value, it's a future contract. So at contract inception, it does not have fair value. So no entry is required on 1st April ka date. Okay, that is the thing. Alright, next what happened? Next they're asking the entry on 30th June. Okay, let's come to 30th June. Let's see what and all happened. On 30th June, 20x1. Pay attention to me with this one, all of you. Guys, you have entered into a forward contract at 76. So you have a right to sell. Because your foreign currency debtor will give you $100. You have sold goods to your foreign currency debtor. So your debtor will give you $100. You're not interested in dollars. You will sell that dollar and convert it into INR, right? At what rate will you sell? You have freezed it at 76. So you have a right to sell that $100 for 76 rupees. That right you got it by entering into something known as a future contract. Yes. So you have a right to sell something at 76. Okay. Because you made a forward contract on 1st April. But suppose you were busy. Okay. You're attending class or you're writing exam or whatever. You forgot that you want to do a forward contract. Okay. That you had to do. On 30th June, you remembered, there is one foreign currency cash flow risk. To cover this risk, I should have done some derivative contract, but I forgot. Okay, let me enter into a forward contract of it now. On 30th June, if you enter into a forward contract, at what rate will you get? You will only be able to get it at 74, meaning you will be able to sell the dollars now at only 74. If you had not entered on 1st April, now your selling right would have been only 74. On $1, you would have received only 74 rupees. But you were smart enough. On the first day only you enter into a forward contract. So you have a right to sell of 76. You have a right to sell 76. But now it has fallen down to 74. That means you will have a big smile or grin on your face. Yes, I made a deal to sell it at 76. Had I not made that deal, had I made that deal on 30th June, my right to sell would have been only 74. I would have only got on $1 74 rupees. But because of this forward contract, I will get 76. That means there is a fair value gain of 2 rupees. Yes, because you have a right to sell it for 76. But if you had not done it, the market may right to sell now after 3 months is only 74. You would have got only 74. But due to forward contract, you will get 76. So 2 rupees more you will get it on $1 because you enter into this particular future contract. So the fair value is $2. Okay, $2 rupees for $1. How many dollars is your contract for? $100. So that means the foreign exchange or fair value gain is 200 rupees. Yes or no? Correct. So that means the value of that, the fair value of that contract is 200 rupees. Yes. Now it is not as simple as that. Actually, it would have been that simple if this word yield 6% had not been given. If this word yield was not given, no. 200 rupees will be the fair value gain that I would have got on my derivative contract, and I would have accounted it. Okay, let me pass out the entry for this. You know this, right? So there is a gain. So your financial asset, you'll debit it. Now there is a fair value gain, right? So you'll write financial asset, future contract, or you can write derivative. In class we studied it as derivative, and study material is using future contract. So we'll write it as like this: financial asset, future contract account debit. Okay, this is a gain. Fair value gain. Normal scenario may you would have transferred this to P or L, but this is coming as a hedging instrument. It's coming through hedging route. So you will not park this in SPL. You will park it in cash flow hedge reserve OCI. Write the full form. Okay. For now, for simplicity, I've just written this. Okay. What value we will find it out in working note number 1. Entry portion, I think you're clear. Financial asset, the future contract account debit to cash flow hedge reserve. Is what you need to pass. Working note number 1, we will pass off this. I'm finding out the fair value. So on first, I'll find out for all the 3. On 1st April 20x1, there is no fair value. Yes, there is no fair value of this future contract because I already explained it to you. On the day you enter into a contract, it's like a zero-sum game. Nobody should gain, nobody should lose out. After you enter into a contract, one guy will gain, another guy will lose. That's what we have to keep accounting it. Okay. So that we've already found out. Now we have to find out on 30th June 20x1 what is the fair value gain. Okay, let's find that out. 1. In fact, I would have just straight away written it as 200, but because of this discount factor, I need to worry about it. Okay, let's write off this. What is the discount factor per annum they've given? This is again a keyword. The discount factor per annum they've given it as 6%. Correct? Now, I'll write like this, see if it makes sense to you. The discount, or if you want to write it as 6%, 6% it will be, if you want to find out the present value. So you'll write 1 divided by 1.06, right? So the discount factor will be 0.9433. 1 divided by 1.06. You used to find out that, yes? So discount factor for 3 months, can you tell me is how much? For 3 months, how much it will be? Like if for 12 months, if it is 6%, okay, for 3 months, how much will be the discount factor? 12 months if discount factor is 6%, means for 3 months, how much is it? How much if you calculate this? X will be what? 3 into 6 divided by 12. So that will be 1.5%. Yes, this you need not have to write it, just calling it out for your reference. Okay, 1.5% is your discount factor. Yes. Now, why am I writing this 1.5%? Because of the time value money concept they brought into this particular problem. Now we know there is a fair value gain of 2 rupees per dollar, and we have a contract for $100. So the fair value is, or maybe I'll write it off here. The fair value should have been, the fair value gain is 76 minus 74. That is 2 rupees per dollar, and we have a total contract value for $100. So the total fair value gain will be 2 into 100, which is 200 rupees. Yes. Now, suppose I have this forward contract, okay, on which I have made a gain of 200. Suppose I want to sell this. It's also an asset, no? Let's say I want to sell it to you. Okay. So I told it to you, see boss, I have a right to sell a future contract at 76 rupees per dollar. I made this. Okay. Currently, because you are on 30th June now, no? I am telling that somebody, look boss, if you on 30th June, now if you want to enter into a forward contract for 3 months, because only 3 months is remaining till 30th September, right? Now if you want to enter into a forward contract, the rate the market will give you is only 74. On $1, you will be able to sell it at only at 74 rupees. But I have a right to sell it at 76. So that means how much can I sell that to you for now? If that contract I want to sell it to you, at what value will I be able to sell it for? Other party will be happy to buy that, yes? Because the selling right on the contract is 76 on $1. Okay. So on $1, he will get 76 rupees. But in the market, if he enters into a contract, he is getting only 74 rupees. Correct? So 2 rupees gain, he is getting it. Correct? All right. So that means on $1, this contract is for $100. So 200 rupees is the total gain. So I'll expect 200 from him. But one question he will ask me. What is that? Boss, I understood your calculation. Yes, I agree that 200 rupees is the total gain. But one thing, even I am a finance student, okay, you can't put so much bakra, you can't make me bakra also. Boss, your forward contract is not ending on 30th June. Your forward contract ka ending date is 30th September. That means 3 months is still remaining on that contract. So this 200 rupees gain, which you are about to give me, right? Okay, I won't get this gain immediately because we are on 30th June right now. Correct? But this 200 rupees, I will not get it now. This 200 rupees, I will get it on 30th September. Only then I will realize. Because only then the settlement on future contract will happen, right? Because this is a settlement date. So he's saying, so why should I give you 200 rupees now? Because I am not receiving 200 rupees now. I will receive this 200 rupees after 3 months. After 3 months, I will receive 200 rupees. Okay. So suppose I have this 200 rupees with me. Okay. They're saying discount factor or interest factor is 6%. So if suppose this 200 rupees, if I take and if I invest it in a bank, and bank gives me an interest rate of 6% per annum. All right. I can make an investment of this 200 rupees for 3 months. Yes. So that means how much interest will I get? 200 into 6% into 3 by 12 if I do, I'll get an interest of 3 rupees. Yes or no? That means the present value of this gain is not 200. It is only 200 minus 3, which is 197 rupees only. Because 200 is the gain you will get it when the forward contract gets executed. That execution happens on 30th September, but we are currently on 30th June. So 200 rupees is a gain, not now, but on 30th September, 3 months later. So that means this 200 rupees is the future value. We need to find out the present value of this. Okay, because of this particular culprit 6%. This we had not done it on our class problem because they had not brought in this. Okay, that is only extra fitting over here. So don't just calculate the fair value gain or loss. Okay, you also need to find out the time value of money impact also you need to give, because this gain will be the future value. Find out the present value of it. Okay, that is simple, this calculation. But like this and all, we can't show it to the examiner, right? There is a certain way in which we calculate. How do you calculate the present value? We take the cash flow, multiply it by the discount factor. Yes, that's what we do. PVIF, present value interest factor. That is what I'm finding it out here. Okay, so they gave the interest discount factor for 6%, but that is for the whole year. But on 30th June, okay, the contract, we are on 30th June, contract will end on 30th September. That means how many more months is remaining? July, August, September, 3 months, right? That's the reason I said for 3 months, how much is the discount factor? So how do you find that? Same thing, like this calculation, you get that to be 1.5%. So 1.5% discount factor, if you do, it will be what? 1 divided by 1.015. That will be 0.9852. So this is the discount factor at 1.5%. Got it? Huh? That's what I'm writing it over here. So now the fair value easily you can find out. How will you find out the fair value? Simple. From 70, or I have a right to sell it at 76, but in the market may it is only 74. Yes. So that means the fair value difference is 2 rupees for $1. I have a right to sell $100. Yes. I have a right to sell it at $100. Okay. So that means how much will be this? Or into the present value factor. Straight away we'll show it off here only. Into, but this will give you total gain, but this will be the future value of the gain. To find out the present value, I need to find out, multiply it by the discount factor also. That is 0.9852. So 76 minus 74, $2 is one gain. Total contract value is for $100. So 200 rupees is a total gain, but that is a future value. To find out the present value, I'll multiply by the present value factor, which is 0.9852. If I do this, I'm going to get same. 200 into 0.9852, that will be 197, sir. So 197 is the value at which I need to record it. Okay, now that's all is this particular funda. Normally this and all is easy. Anyone will find out this. You just have to, after finding out the fair value gain loss, do not also forget to multiply the discount factor, because the time value of money ka impact you need to give it over here. There also they brought in an adjustment. We require discount factor only for 3 months because contract will end in another 3 months. But they give it for whole year. So I need to prorate and find out the interest for that 3 months. Accordingly, I'll be able to get the discount factor. That's it. Okay. So that means I will pass this journal entry for 197 rupees. That's all. Okay. That is my the gain which I'll record it. Okay. On the same funda, similarly, next I need to get the contract ending date. That is on 30th September 20x1. Okay. Let's find out this. Now check what happened. I have a right to sell $76. Now on 30th September, no, the rate has become 71. The final rate is 71. So how much is my gain? If I had not entered into this forward contract, no, $1 I will be able to sell it at 71. This is questionable. Ideally, according to me, it should have been 72, but it's okay, no problem. Let's go ahead with that. Okay. If I had not entered into this contract, I would have able to sell this dollar at 71 rupees. But due to this forward contract, I'll be able to sell it now at 76. So that means how much is my gain, sir? How much is my fair value? The fair value gain will be fair value gain 76 minus 71. This is a gain on $1. We have a right to sell $100. That means the total gain will be total fair value gain is, or the total fair value I'll write instead of total fair value gain itself is the total fair value. Total fair value is 500 rupees. So the worth of this instrument, the final worth of this instrument is 500 rupees. So I should have shown this derivative. You showed it at fair value, right? So the fair value of the derivative contract or that future contract is 500 rupees. But have I booked 500 in my books? No, I have showed only 97. So that means on 30th September 20x1, in fact, you already just check here, financial asset, future contract, to be recognized or to be debited how much? To be debited by. I have to recognize at 500, but I have currently recognized it at 197. Okay, that means I have to increase it from 197. I have to bring it up to 500. So that will be 303 rupees. So I will pass the same entry. Financial asset, future contract account debit, working note number 1. 2, again, though this is a derivative, you will not transfer the gain loss to SPL because of hedge accounting. You will park it again in cash flow hedge reserve, that is OCI. 303 rupees, because the total fair value on 30th September is 500, because that is my total gain, okay, by entering into this forward contract. But currently I have showed it at 197. So from 197 I have to increase it and show it at 500. So that means I'll have to increase this, pass the same entry once more for 303 rupees. That's it, over. This is one simple working note to give you that fair value gain loss, okay. Alright, now onwards, simple funda. So on 30th September 20x1, on this future contract, on this derivative contract, I generally settled on a net basis, right? Yes. So how much gain totally you will get? You made a total gain of 500. That much will be getting it to you. So that means you'll pass the journal entry, bank account debit 500. You'll receive this much money. Okay, that's your gain, right? To financial asset, future contract, 500. So your derivative, that is this financial asset future contract account, is fully closed off. That's all. Okay, fine. That entry over or no, there are some more entries. On 30th September, you also sold the goods, no? So if the foreign currency guy has paid you the money, you'll write bank account. If he has yet to pay, means you'll write trade receivable account debit, okay, to sales. Because your performance obligation, you have sold the goods, you have delivered copper, no? So your performance obligation is getting satisfied, so you'll recognize the revenue. How many kgs was that? You'll deliver about 100 kgs of copper, right? 100 kgs of copper at, in fact, the rate was what? How much was this? 100, oh no, in fact, here, 100 kgs of copper you will sell, but you're billing it in dollars. And the spot rate on that day, on 30th September, no, the spot rate, on the same day it sells the inventory at a spot rate of 72. So they booked it at 72 per dollar. Okay. So that means this will be 100 into 72, which will be 7,200. So you'll pass the journal entry. So why not 71? So 71 is the future rate. For the forward, that for the derivative contract, it is 71. That's what I said. No, this also should have been, these two numbers should have been same ideally. Okay. Because on the settlement date, the both should be same. I don't know why they bought it different, but let's not question that. Let's go with it. Yeah. So on that day, you sold it at 72 rate. So I've just passed that particular entry. Performance obligation is satisfied. So revenue is also recognized. That's it. No, one last entry is remaining. What is that? Now, you parked it in cash flow hedge reserve. Okay. Now the contract is ended. Once the contract ends on the same day, on 30th September 20x1, from cash flow hedge reserve account debit, you will transfer it off to P&L. So totally how much balance is there in cash flow hedge reserve? If you add this, you're going to get 197 plus 303, you'll get obviously 500. So you will transfer this 500 to your P&L account. What our study material is doing is they are booking it as sales, because ultimately they should go to P&L, but it should go as what name? No, standard is not recommended anything. They're saying this cash flow hedge reserve should be transferred to P&L. So in the name of sales, they are transferring it off to P&L in this particular problem. That's what our study material has done. Just to be in sync up, I've just done this particular entry. That's all is the funda of this particular problem. Again, if you want to know further logic, sir, why initially only we did not transfer it off to P&L? Matching concept, sir. If you want to look at that also. See, the hedged item, that is your sales or receivables, that is going into P&L. When are you booking sales? You're booking sales on 30th September, right? Correct. So that means the gain on that hedging instrument also, derivative also, should go to P&L on the same day. They are both are hand in hand, right? So we are just matching here. That's the reason till 30th September, till the contract ends, we will book it in OCI, that is cash flow hedge reserve. Once the contract ends, you have also booked this income in P&L, no? So cash flow hedge reserve also will be transferred to P&L in that particular case. Again, matching concept ka extension this is, that's all. That's the reason we say at the end of the contract term, transfer it off. Cash flow hedge reserve will be transferred to P&L. Okay. This is the funda of this particular question. Easy only, but just like, you need to be a little aware of this. So if you want a quick recap, what is this? You have entered into a forward contract, right? So you need to value the derivative contract fair value. Find out the fair value. Gain loss. Okay. Here, when you enter into a contract, it was 76. After 3 months, it has become 74. So 2 rupees gain you made on $1. Contract is for $100. So that means the total gain is 200. So you would have booked the entry, this particular entry, you would have passed for 200, provided the time value money concept was not there. Here they said discount factor is 6% for whole year. But the contract on 30th June, you're passing the entry, but contract will end on 30th September, 3 months down the line. So find out the present value. That 200 rupees becomes your future value. So find out the present value of that. That's what we have calculated here. It comes to 197. So book this entry at 197. On 30th September, you have a right to sell it for 76, but the rate going in the market is 71, right to sell. So 5 rupees extra, you will be extra selling price you're getting on $1. So the total gain is 500. So the total fair value of that contract is 500. Okay, but you've already booked it for 197. So that means still we need to book it for 303 rupees, which we have booked. That's all. Okay. And on 30th September, your derivative will be settled on a net basis. If there is a gain, you'll receive the money. If there is a loss, you need to pay the money. Here there is a gain of 5 rupees on $1. So total is like $100 you've entered. So 500 rupees is your total gain, which you will get it. Okay, it will be put in your money account, or bank account. Then performance obligation is satisfied. So go ahead and book the sales revenue also. Then once the contract has come to an end, cash flow hedge reserve is not required anymore. That will be transferred off to P&L. But here they are transferring it to P&L in the name of sales. That's it. Okay. This is the funda. Okay. Now if you look at the study material solution, same thing, they've got it. Okay. But they have done a whole lot of working for this. If you check the journal entry, it is same. No entry. We call it as financial asset future contract. They're just calling it as future contract to cash flow hedge reserve. Then future contract to cash flow hedge reserve. Bank account debit to sales. And then cash flow hedge reserve to revenue. Meaning P&L they have transferred cash flow hedge reserve. Then bank account debit to financial asset future contract settlement. Same entry, same amount. But the only problem is the working notes. They've done a whole lot of things. So much was not required. It's a simple finding out the fair value activity. Yes. So with what? With one present value adjustment. Normal fair value you find out. Multiply by the present value factor. You will get the value. That's it. So this I think is much easier if you ask me. That's the reason I have done it in this particular approach. Alright. So yes. Just one more thing I would like to say. Problem is over. In our problem, in our class, I think we had done question number 109, if I remember. In our financial instrument topic, same question we had done. In fact, our question was much better in terms of foreign currency bond and all we had done. There, if you just remember a chart, okay, I have written one point I would like to call out. This is not relevant for our YouTube audience. It is relevant for the guys who have taken our class and done a problem there. Okay, just to those guys to correlate, I'm saying. Here we have written loss, okay, because in our problem, it was a loss, okay. So hence that loss on contract you have transferred from cash flow hedge reserve to P&L. But here I've written over contract duration. If you remember in that particular problem, I did not transfer from cash flow hedge reserve to P&L at the end of the contract. I transferred it as and when the quarter passed. Why? Because that was a foreign currency convertible bond, sir. On foreign currency convertible bonds, you were getting some interest. Yes. I mean, some portion you'll transfer it to P&L. Okay. Because on foreign currency bond, you're getting interest. Interest will be transferred to P&L. That means some portion of cash flow hedge reserve also should be transferred to P&L. That is what we did. In one shot, we did not transfer from cash flow hedge reserve to P&L. Okay. As in when our reporting end came, like on 30th June, our interim financial statement when we prepared, some portion from cash flow hedge reserve I transferred to P&L. Again, at the end, I transferred balance portion to P&L. Because On bonds, we were receiving interest, and interest was already transferred to P&L. Since some portion of our hedging instrument has already gone to P&L, it makes, applying matching principle, it makes sense that some portion of cash flow hedge reserve also should go to P&L. That is the reason we had transferred from cash flow hedge reserve to P&L over contract duration, not at the end. But in this particular problem, it's a sale activity. So income is getting booked only at the end. So cash flow hedge reserve also will go to P&L only at the end. That is the difference between the problem we had done in class and this particular question. Anyway, that one I just taken from a foreign book, and I just given you explaining the fundas. So that is fine. Okay. So just to differentiate, because I don't want you to come back and ask me a question. Sorry, one problem you're doing one thing anta. So I just wanted to clarify with respect to that. Okay. So yes, guys. Hopefully this concept is clear to you guys. All right. Thank you, guys.